Today we have a few items on the agenda, and part of the items are going to be that some items related to the Lawrence Public Schools. But before we get to that point, we have item 16122, which is the health and safety concerns about the youth substance misuse with the city of Lawrence. It was put together by a couple of councilors. At this point, we are going to table this matter until we have a few organizations in place to come over. And part of those organizations that I would like to somehow, one way or another, to include in the conversation is the Lawrence Public Schools. The intention of item 16122 is to collect information in regard to our youth and the misuse of illegal drugs, substance abuse, and so far so on. At this point, we're not ready to engage into a conversation about this item unless the council wants or have something that would like to share. Councilors, I would like to entertain a motion to table item 16122.
Second.
All right, there is an item to table, properly second. I call the roll call. Councilor Infante?
Yes.
Councilor Rosario?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So item 161.22 is stable. We have item 9822, which is the safety concern with Merrimack Valley Regional Transit Authority. We have them here today, and we would like to allow them to continue the conversation that we started 2 weeks ago. Councilors, can I get a motion to untable item 9822?
Second.
All right, there is a motion on the table, properly second. I'll call the questions. Councilor Infante?
Yes.
Councilor Rosario?
Yes.
I vote yes. Now we have item 9822 open. So please have the floor, name and address for the record, and let's continue the conversation where we stopped last time.
Yes, hi, I'm Noah Berger. I'm the administrator for the Merrimack Valley Regional Transit Authority. We are at 85 Railroad Avenue in Haverhill, Massachusetts. So, before I begin, I just also want to introduce Angel Cortez, who's our sort of assistant general manager for operations, and actually in one of her many prior jobs was the safety officer for the MVRTA, so knows safety through and through, because I know that's the particular interest of this committee. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members of the council, for bringing me back. This is something we actually, I won't say this out loud too much, but we like doing this kind of thing, because I think that's one of the things that's really important, and sort of it's on the next slide, is that when I first started back over the summer, one of the things I found is that not enough people knew we were here. We met with community groups. We certainly met with the mayors and councilors, but we also tried to meet with real people. And not that you guys aren't real people, but it's important to engage on the bus. And so we did that. We rode the bus. We went to community groups, and we figured out tried to say what people need from their transit provider, what we were doing well, what we might not have been doing so well. And that feedback sort of informed the vision that I'll sort of hint at today. So one of the first things is that a lot of people said that the bus routes didn't really make sense, that there were a lot of cases where the outbound was very far away from the inbound. So on paper, it looks like we served the area, but if you can't get back to where you started in a reasonable fashion, then really we weren't serving that area well. So I'm just going to go through some of the changes in Lawrence. The Route 36, the outbound used to do a little jog up Arlington that the inbound didn't, and we eliminated that. And likewise, the inbound would go out Alder and Lawrence and Myrtle Street, which the outbound didn't do, and that also duplicated service that was already provided on the Route 85. So by staying on Hampshire for that leg, we made that route more efficient. Quite frankly, it values the time of our riders in ways that we weren't quite doing before, and it's made that a more reliable service. Likewise, with the Route 37, which you see the dotted red lines is part of what we used to do on the inbound, and this route was quite literally a figure eight. And again, when in talking about this, if it's not a path of travel that people would walk or drive in their right mind, then we had to question why we were doing it as a bus route. So what we did is we made the outbound and the inbound follow the same path. So we go Beacon Street now bi-directional, Mount Vernon north up to where the Voc School is, and then out on River Street towards Andover. And then a small but important change that we made on the Route 35 is we used to actually go into the Essex Plaza, which is really not designed for buses. And so what we're doing is we just stay outside. We serve the area just as well, and actually, quite frankly, better, because you don't take your life in your hands getting into the plaza. It's a lot safer. It's better for the bus drivers, better for the riders, better for the cars that are jockeying for parking. So this was an improvement, again, that makes the route faster, makes the route more efficient, and makes it safer. And just as a teaser for coming this summer, we will again reintroduce the beach bus. It'll be a little different. First of all, it'll only go on Saturdays. We wish we could do it full-time, but as you'll see sort of in a later slide, we desperately need more drivers. But Saturday's the big day, but we're going to do it as an express run from Lawrence. So it'll board here in Lawrence, and then it'll jump on the highway and go right out to the beach. So it'll be a more sort of time-efficient route, and it'll be able to get there in ways that make sense. We're going to look at other routes in the area. I think the number 34 bus, the Prospect Hill, is one that's a very sort of difficult routing right now, and we're working on improving that. So when we come back and talk to you guys in the fall, we'll have something better to show there. But the same idea that if you look at the routing, it zigs and zags and goes in and out. So it covers a lot of miles without covering a lot of distance. So, and I just wanted to give a shout out to the mayor. An issue that we have had for years, and it was very difficult to figure out whose jurisdiction it was and how to solve it. But the signal on the Duck Bridge, and anyone who's driven there in the late afternoon has remembers being stuck there for a unseemly amount of time, and our buses were stuck in that as well. So we brought it up with the mayor, and he said, quite frankly, I don't care whose jurisdiction it is, we'll get it done. And in March he did. So that's been a market improvement. It's just an example of little changes can make a tremendous difference. A big change, this is not a little change. In March, we went fare free. I think we were, we did an analysis from a fiscal perspective. It made sense. We were showing that if you count for the full cost of collecting fares, and a lot of people don't realize what goes into that, but there's, we used to operate a money room that is, any transit authority will tell you the money room is a nightmare. But we require 2 managers to go there just to count the money and make it all then, and everyone is under the watchful eyes of video cameras, so it's not really a fun place to be. And money is gross. So by eliminating that eliminates costs. We don't have to hire an armored car to come pick the money up. We don't have to maintain the fare boxes, which as they get more and more sophisticated, they get more and more finicky and break more easily. And boarding and alighting is a lot quicker because people aren't queuing up to fumbling with change and dropping it into the fare box. And it's also eliminated one of the major conflicts between drivers and passengers, because there's no longer fighting about who paid the fare and who didn't. So it's really been a positive situation. I think we've gotten a lot of really positive press for that. And it's, in some ways we're setting the model that other transit properties are looking at. We're relooking at our buses. you know, our buses currently are not things that the kids are pointing to and saying that aren't those cool. So what we're going to do, the bottom figure is a design we're looking at to repackage our buses, make it something that is you know, something that's easily seen when it comes down the street, something that has a different image instead of being kind of the bus. It's something that's bright and colorful. I think, you know, one of the things we heard, a lot of folks in the Merrimack Valley who were, you know, come from other parts of the world where they're just used to very colorful buses, and our very boring white buses kind of blend in a little too much. We're even looking at things like seats, and this was actually a common thing that riders talked about. The image on the left are cloth seats, which when they first come out from the manufacturer are very comfortable, but quickly the cloth retains stains that we don't want to know where they come from. Very hard to get out. They just don't age well, and it's not necessarily the most welcoming experience for riders. We experimented with the middle image is of a clear, slick plastic, and while that solves the stain issue, what the concern that some of our riders talked about is they slide off the seats very easily. So what we're looking at, and this will sort of fit with the color scheme that we're looking at for the outside of the bus, is having something that's plastic but retains some friction so that riders won't be slipping off the bus. And it also, you know, it takes that colorful, almost party atmosphere we're trying to project on the outside of the buses and putting it on the inside of the buses. All right, and this image, I shamelessly have a picture of Councilor Del Rosario, but that's his fault for getting in the paper on this issue. You know, I think we've been thinking in parallel with the councilor on this, it's one of the things that we've heard a lot is that both from our drivers, quite frankly, as well as passengers, they would like to see bus stops. And I think for our current system, which, you know, a lot of people don't realize is 100%, almost 100% flag, that's fine if you know the system. It's fine if you, and maybe we have a lot of riders who know where to stand on their route, but may not know that we serve the entire Merrimack Valley, and how to get to another route, where to wait if you're going somewhere else, suddenly it becomes much more daunting. For someone who doesn't know our system at all, it's very intimidating. You're just sort of blind faith waiting on the side of the road, hoping the bus comes by, hoping it's the right bus, hoping you get on the right one. So the idea here is that if we put bus stops up, that will introduce more riders. We have sort of a design that fits the image for the new bus look that we're talking about, and that will, you know, also have information on the bus there. And this next thing, this is top secret just between those of us in this room. So hopefully, you know, no one else is paying attention. But just this morning, so this is hot off the presses. This is you are the first to hear this. We were awarded a shared streets grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. That will allow us, 14 bus shelters will be installed in Lawrence. Another 4 will be put in Amesbury. And, you know, thanks again to the folks at the city who helped us identify the you know, potential locations for the stops. And I think over the next you know, 6 months to a year, once we get the notice to proceed, we'll start putting those in where there is sidewalk width. And that's the critical piece. What I'm showing here, the top images are shelters that were recently installed in River Street in Haverhill. And you see they're really elegant, stately shelters. What I have on the bottom is for areas where there might not be the full width to put a shelter, there's a company that recently started up in Ward Hill. They're the American division of a Italian firm, and they do what's called smart benches, which include, and some of them have an overhang, where, you know, you can plug in or just through Wi-Fi get real-time information however you want to configure it. And, you know, some of them are pretty, innovative looking too. So that's stuff we will be looking to install throughout the service area. And, another issue that, we've been confronted with is that, our hub in Lawrence is the Buckley Transportation Center. It was not built to be a bus depot. It was built to be a garage, and it looks that way. I think one thing, another thing that drivers and passengers can agree on is everybody hates Buckley. It's, there's a middle island in there that is between between dividing four lanes of bus berthings. It's dark. It's doesn't always, the aroma is not always as sweet as we'd like it to be. And I think it's an opportunity for both the city and for us, quite frankly, to consider relocating. It's owned by the city, and there might be other opportunities there. And there are certain discussions that are forcing our hands because, with the reconfiguration of Amesbury Street into a two-way, if I were to stay in Buckley after they do that, then Angel will probably strangle me. Which I want to avoid, and I also don't want Angel to go to prison. So we're looking at other options. The one that makes the most sense is the McGovern Transportation Center, just about just under a mile away from Buckley. And we have the advantage that we own it. It has more space for amenities. There's already waiting areas there. It has the intermodal connection with the train. It's also a place that we're trying to reactivate. So, back in the fall, we had an opportunity to bring some sort of playfully painted pianos. We installed those there. We're working with there's a cafe that has been dormant for the last 10 years. We're going to reopen that as kind of an entrepreneurial training program. So we're bringing in this local woman who's a very talented natural nail artist. And so just my facilities manager, who's, how would you describe Guy? He's Guy. He's he drives a motorcycle. But he's committed. He's going to get motorcycles painted on his fingernails through the new shop there. So we'd like to activate the space, including, so Frank talks with the Lawrence Police Department about pulling up the shades on the community policing spots there, and the space between the bridge and the transportation center. Use that to possibly have food trucks and other things that will really make it a more lively place. And then finally, I think I've been talking a lot about things that were either we've changed or we hope to change, but this is something that has been the case and will continue to be the case, is just the training and quality and professionalism of our drivers. And, every fixed route driver has a CDL with, the air brakes and passenger endorsements. They undergo at least 200 hours of training before they ever operate in revenue service. We also have onboard cameras, which is a protection for us as well as for our riders, as well as anything that's going on in the street. And there's many a time that the law enforcement comes to us to get videos of any altercation that's happened on the street that maybe we had nothing to do with, but just as an assistance for that. And then finally, as I indicated before, we need drivers. So right now, tell all your friends. It's a great place to work. So Councilor Del Rosario, we just renovated the driver's lounge. It's now been painted for the first time in 25 years. We have sort of new tables, chairs. We're going to have couches there. And actually, we're going to dedicate it in honor of one of our drivers who tragically passed this winter, Gleason Nichols. So it'll be dedicated in his honor. So it will be a great place to work. We now pay $27 an hour. There's a $1,000 signing bonus if you stick it out for a year, which you should because it's a great place to work. You have 100% of your insurance is paid by us. You have a pension plan. So spread the word. We want folks, you know, if any of you get disenchanted with politics, come drive for us. You know, that helps us too, because the more drivers we have, the more we can put more service on the road that our passengers in our community deserves and needs. So thank you. Happy to take any questions. Absolutely. Yeah.
And definitely, this is great news to actually get engaged with the organization that is running the buses, and professionalism. It's a key component for any type of business we do in the city of Lawrence and other cities and towns around. So thank you, councilors. There is any question for them? So, Councilor Rosario.
When are we looking to, like, all this implement? How long do you think it's, I know it's slowly developing right now, but do we have like a time frame, or when are we going to start seeing all this, or no?
So, and I think some of the stuff that I presented will be roll out over different windows. So the improving the bus routes, that stuff that's ongoing. So with each new bid, there will be new changes that we'll be rolling out. We did the ones in Lawrence that I highlighted here back in April. Primarily what we're going to do for the July bid is reconfigure the Haverhill routes, and including some expansion that will now be going to Groveland for the first time in our history. In September, we're going to look and reconfigure the service in Newburyport, and we're also looking at the 34 bus. And then depending on where we are with the number of drivers, roll out a new route in Lawrence that, so one of the things, not to get too inside baseball, but I know you know this, the number one bus, which is our highest ridership bus, it goes between Lawrence and Haverhill, but it goes via Pleasant Valley to the Loop and then back. So it's great if you're going to the Loop, but it's very frustrating if you're going between Lawrence and Haverhill, because you have to sort of spend as much as 20 minutes going over to the Loop and back on the same road. What we're looking at, and this is all right now, it's still in the very planning stages, but having the 01 go via Jackson to the Loop and then continue up to Haverhill. So get to the Loop a little faster. And then if we can straighten out the, then have a new route go up, basically cover what's now part of the 34 that goes Newbury to Prospect, then continue up and then go the Swan and Marston up to the Loop that way, covering what the 01 currently does. So basically, you have two ways of getting to the Loop from Lawrence, and one that would continue on to Haverhill more directly, and then we have to figure out what to do with the, serve Lawrence General as well as the Prospect Hill neighborhood with the 34, but in a way that's more direct. So that's, without getting too much into the weeds, that's what we're looking at for hopefully September, if we have the drivers to add the additional service.
Second.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the opportunity to just get the word out. Okay.
June 7. June 7.
Yes.
Yes.
Councilor Infante,
Yes.
Councilor De Rosario,
Yes.
and Councilor Reyes vote yes. Thank you so much, appreciate it. So now we have a series of items regarding to the Lawrence Public School. One of the items is 12622, the other item is 12921, and the third item is 15619. So councilors, I would like to take item 12921 together with item 15619, which both are related to safety at the Lawrence Public School and the Lawrence High School specifically. So I would like to take both as a package. If I get a motion to take it from the table matters as a package.
So move.
There is a motion on the table and properly second. I call the question. Councilor Reyes. Councilor Reyes. Yes. She votes yes. Councilor De Rosario.
Yes.
Councilor Infante.
Yes.
All right, now we have two items on the table. Before we actually take those items, it is important to recognize that we have invited the Superintendent Paris for quite some time. She actually sent a couple of people that are very important to us, and we highly appreciate your presence here tonight. Thank you for being here, but not taking the responsibility away from the superintendent, since we're trying to get engaged with her directly on these meetings. I hope that she understands that the level of respect that we have to the community is great, and we hope that she sees it and she actually come over to us to discuss this type of issues. But we definitely appreciate the presence of Quinn, Victor, and Juan, and especially David, which is the safety officer. Thank you all for being here. Please get the message to her that we wanted to see her here as well at some point. So, and we don't want to have this conversation with this situation happening all the time. So she needs to come over as we invite her with proper amount of time. Timothy, thank you so much as well for being here. So you are allowed to share your screen, and let's open the conversation about the safety in general, and as well as the safety on the Lawrence Public School, and share with us every good things that are happening at the schools.
Thank you, Councilor Infante, Councilor Del Rosario, and Councilor Reyes for allowing us to present tonight. My name is Juan Rodriguez. I'm the Chief Partnership Officer with the Lawrence Public Schools and have spent a lot of time at Lawrence High School and at the Arlington Middle School. Previously, the superintendent asked us to present tonight as she is in an executive meeting of the board of the Lawrence Alliance for Education. So we do have a slide deck presentation here. And again, thank you also for allowing us to share our screen for the presentation. We do have some information to present from various folks. As Councilor Rodriguez mentioned, we have Mr. Hernandez, who is the Manager of School Safety for the Lawrence Public Schools. We have Mr. Caraballo Anderson, the Head of School at Lawrence High School, Mr. Finn, the Assistant Head of School at Lawrence High School, and Mr. Gunnell, who is the Manager of Restorative Practices at Lawrence High School. And we will try to give you as much information and answer any questions that you may have about Lawrence High School or the district in general. Regarding the Lawrence Public Schools Code of Conduct, this has undergone a redesign about 2 years ago with stakeholders, including parents, teachers, and administrators, community members from the district. This provides us with a framework to provide all students with a safe and caring learning environment. It had to be developed in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 71, specifically Sections 37H, 37H and a half, and 37H and 3/4. And we feel it ensures appropriate, equitable, and consistent handling of disciplinary challenges, including due process and transparency for all of our students, our staff, and our families. And of course, it includes the rules and procedures that all members of the school community must commit to inside of our building. Again, you know, the code of conduct also does align with the social learning expectations at Lawrence High School, especially exhibiting empathy and compassion towards others, demonstrating responsible, respectful, and professional behavior. It also aligns with some ideas in our Portrait of a Graduate project, which include collaborating with others and being a responsible member of a group and contributing in a positive manner with respect and empathy towards others. And it also aligns, of course, with our social emotional learning competencies, specifically self-awareness and relationship skills, as we want students at all levels to be able to advocate for themselves and develop excellent relationships with their peers and also with their staff members at the schools that they work at. I'm going to turn it over to Quinn for a little information, and Quinn, just let me know when you need me to move slides.
Mr. Rodriguez, I'm actually gonna take over and just present this slide. Again, thank you for doing the work that you do and just supporting all of our kids. So good evening, everyone. Again, it's just a true pleasure to join this committee, just to have an open conversation in terms of, you know, what has been happening at the high school, and just to give factual information, database information, which is much needed. I think transparency is gonna be key in order for us to do this work. So I wanted to showcase that transparency tonight. So we had a series of different incidents in October. That's not a surprise to anyone. Everything was televised. It was promoted. We were all concerned. We came together as a community to problem solve, and this is the result. So what you see in front of you is the total of LHS students. So when it comes to LHS, we hover between 3,300 to 3,500 students. We're the largest second comprehensive high school in the state. So in terms of fights, these are called M6 violations, according to the Code of Conduct. In January 4, that equates to 0.0011%. February 2, March 5, April 2, May 4. And so what we're looking at in terms of altercations at LHS is less than 0.5%. And when it comes to this data source, it is through PowerSchool. Legally, we have to, whenever we assign discipline to a student, we have to put it in the system. And that document and that source can be shared with you all so you can review it and you can get a better understanding of these numbers at each month. And so it is extremely important for families, particularly families who are concerned about the situation at the high school, the videos that come out, the propaganda that has been made in terms of, you know, these altercations, that these are the actual numbers. And if you compare us to any comprehensive high school, you know, our numbers are actually less than any school literally in the Merrimack Valley. And so I'm very proud of that. And that's work that, again, has been done through the collaboration of our staff, with our students, with our partners, with our families. And so we're proud that we were able to get through that difficult time. And now we're looking into this great result. Next slide, please. So this section is going to be Mr. Hernandez. He owns this section. He's going to give you some highlights in terms of safety officers, the work that they do. He's also going to highlight the work of the crossing guards. And again, we're just going to be very transparent in terms of what we have and what we don't have and where we need the most support. David?
Good evening, everyone. I know we met back in October. We discussed some of the issues that we had in the department. You know, following that meeting, we did some research trying to see what we could do to bring people into our department. We're still suffering. A lot of people are still not looking forward to joining our team. So this is what we have currently, 37 positions, 7 vacancies. That's overall for the district. We have 7 safety officers at the high school, and we have a total of 13 crossing guards throughout the district. 6 of them are former safety crossing guards that came over from the, once we took over the program from the city.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Next slide, please.
I'm just going to review some of the action steps, as Mr. Caraballo mentioned, after, when we were working on the learning environments, specifically at the campus in the fall. We did make sure that we had different layers for students to access while they were in school in case they needed support. If we start at the top here, we have campus administrators like Mr. Caraballo, like Mr. Finn, like Mr. Gunnell. We also have 4 full-time school resource officers led by Sergeant Caraballo who are stationed at the high school and who serve the entire district. We have program administrators, principals, assistant principals, and deans of students across 9th, 10th grade and the upper school. As David just reviewed, we also have safety officers and school culture specialists who assist students in the hallway, make sure students are going to class, monitor bathrooms, etc. On the academic side, in addition to their teachers, all students, have access to academic guidance counselors and school social workers to help them with any academic or social emotional need that they have during the day. On the right, the bullets include, during our budgetary process, we were able to add a 4th school resource officer position that will join the Lawrence Police and LPS in the 2022-2023 year. So there will be a commander of the SROs and now 4 4 school resource officers for a total of 5. All of our campus deans and our school culture specialists receive training from the Ellie Center to develop restorative justice and mentor-mentee systems to deal with students in a positive manner, to make sure that students know we are trying to support them in getting to class and in academic gains. And also, as many of you know, Lancer the Comfort Dog has completed training, has officially started, and accompanies Officer Hendrick on campus and when he does visit other schools across the district.
Mr. Gunnell?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. So I just want to quickly add, I really do love having Lancer here, the therapy dog. I've seen him in action, and like I've seen Officer Hendricks, who's his handler, show up when students are in crisis, like mental health crisis, and the dog, has no issue with going right up to the student, and the student can, pet his floppy ears. And it really does have a very noticeable positive response to helping those students regulate. So just wanted to throw that out there. It's really a big treat having him here. And so I also wanted to add in that last slide, Juan mentions social workers as part of the guidance counselor department. There have been 7 social workers added to the campus, which it's almost nearly doubled the counseling department. So when we're talking about mental health and social emotional needs, that is huge. That is huge. In any community like Lawrence, there has always been a big need for that, especially now with recovering from the pandemic. So the next slide is titled an institutional commitment to student well-being, because that's exactly what I feel like this is. What we're seeing some really good results, and I think that is a result of the commitment, the institutional commitment, the management of resources in a very intentional and productive way. So that's what I think I'm highlighting here with the role. The work that I do on campus, this is just a bulleted list of some of the stuff I do, but it's, a lot of it is pretty much figuring out where we need to focus more effort in creating a more safe, more welcoming, more comfortable, more learning environment that is conducive to the needs of children, of high school students and teachers. So there's a list there. I don't have to go through it. I think everyone will receive a copy of this presentation. Juan, can you just hit next so I can get the next box there? So the culture team that we have established here is really, really, I think, one of the key elements here, because we're hiring new people to do this work that is very exciting, and that I think, as I talk to colleagues from other schools, other districts, they're asking me to share, what are the practices that we're using here because we're seeing such good results. So, some of the stuff we're seeing here is on the cutting edge of social emotional learning and safety and school safety. All this restorative work is, it works. There's a reason that districts all across the country are making investments into restorative practices. And so just one example that I like to highlight is our restorative reflection room, where we now have a space that is staffed throughout the day by culture specialists or myself, where students who need support regulating or they just need a place to receive direct support. We have a dedicated space for that, where it's not just all punitive. It's not just you did something wrong, you need to face consequences. We still have consequences, but we also have support and accountability, which is what restorative work is all about. And it's that proactive element. We want to make sure that we're identifying what the needs are, identifying what the conflicts are before it turns into a fight. So that's a lot of the work that we're doing. We have a team of 10 people across the campus that is involved as they're called culture specialists, and they're receiving professional development, as Juan mentioned. They each have a caseload of students that they're mentoring, like they're serving as academic mentors for them. I think all but one person on the team is bilingual and culturally representative of the community. And the kids just really love these team members. If you ask the students, they call them deans, but their official role is culture specialists, and they really do appreciate the support that they get from them. So they're helping with teachers and administrators with classroom management and conflict resolution. And maybe if we can go to the next box there, if you just hit, there you go. So we have a really, really great data point here. Since when you compare the first semester to the second semester, we have a 56% drop in student fight incidents. So that is to me, that is extremely positive. And so if you want to look at a couple other points from there, so 73% of our fights that happened in the school year happened in September and October, in the first 2 months. I'm sorry, 73% of the fights that happened in first semester. And then, so if you look at the full year, half of the fights happened in those first 2 months. So I think that's a reflection of the work that we've done since in response to that crisis that was happening within the school. And again, I think this was happening in a lot of schools across the country. You look at Boston, you look at Lynn, you look at Methuen, and I feel like there was a very, very strong response starting, coming out of those first 2 months. And you can see the data shows, the data reflects that since those first 2 months, we have just, the number of incidents has just been going lower and lower. So that was my slide. Thanks, everyone. Oh, wait, I have another slide here. So this is another big highlight that we're very excited about. We have invested in the design and creation of a student wellness space here at Lawrence High School on campus, and we're gonna. This is coming summer 2022. And this space is specifically for social emotional learning, programming around, team building, community restorative circles, breath work, meditation. It's just an extra space where we can utilize it to do that student support, that proactive student support work. And we are partnering with teachers to do programming in this space as well. So a lot of exciting things happening here on campus.
So I want to thank Quinn again for that great presentation, and he doesn't give himself enough credit. He has done an outstanding job. Again, just as a member of the community coming in and problem solving and really connecting with kids and, working on building and supporting the system that we have in place. So I'm truly appreciative of his hard work and everything that he has done, and I just want to make that public. So when it comes to Lawrence High School, again, I arrived to a place in which we always just talked about potential, right? Lawrence High School has a lot of potential, but what we're focusing on is really the realization of the potential of our kids. And our kids, when supported, when given the right tools, they are truly impressive. So one of the things I would like to share is graduation rate. So this is the DESE report. Again, this is public. This is accessible to the public. If you go to the DESE website, you'll find this information. This is just a snapshot of that. When it comes to the 4-year adjustment graduation rate, which means students that came in at different times to Lawrence High School and graduated, we achieved an 86.8% graduation rate. When it comes to that conventional, kids who started in 9th grade and never shifted to any other school, but then graduated with us, we're looking at an 83%. This is a drastic change in terms of the data that we have seen in the past. And again, we're very proud, right, to showcase this is the school that we want for our kids here in Lawrence, and we want the Lawrence community to be proud of this school. Again, all of this will be shared with the counselors. And again, when we go to the Q&A, feel free to ask any questions. Next slide, please. Dropout rates has been a huge concern. So I just wanted to show you the data. Within the last 2 years, our current dropout rate, and this is again published by DESE, we have reached 1% dropout rate. I'm looking at the current numbers right now for next year. We're going to be looking at close to 0.5% of a dropout rate, which is going to be lower than most of the surrounding communities in this area. So you can see the huge transformation. 4% for 3,400 students, right? And then we turn to less of 0.5%. Again, this is public data. This is where we are now. So this is a result of the collaboration of all the high school principals working together with their teams to support our students and provide, and instead of asking them to fit in a box, what we're saying is, what is it that you really need? How can we best support you? So let's celebrate that. Next slide, please. So let's talk about student achievement. During the hardest 2 years as an administrator, and again, for our students, right? This is a snapshot of what we have been able to achieve. So when it comes to our school, some of the things that you're gonna see on the left, I was there last week. When it comes to the council, right? We celebrated our cheerleaders that became the national champions. When it comes to the JROTC, they were the Governor's Cup state champions. That is the highest honor, not only locally, I'm talking about the state. When it comes to junior achievement, we have been awarded School of the Year for the last 2 years because of the fact that our kids are just so impressive in their work with that organization, to the point in which some of them won 2 scholarships, $10,000 each for college. When it comes to the arts, again, we also received the highest awards, not only statewide, but nationally. Again, this is just to showcase a snapshot. There are many more, right, of the accomplishments of some of our kids. Now let's talk about early college. You read it in the newspaper, people highlight it as something that is important. We're doing 2 things at LHS. We're building our early college program. We have the most aggressive expansion in the state. So right now, we're gonna be looking at 350 students who are gonna be enrolled. For the first time in Lawrence High School, we had students who graduated with a dual degree, meaning they're gonna receive their high school and they're gonna receive their associates. And that's what we want as the norm. Not only that, but we're also expanding in AP courses, which means that when it comes to college level courses, we had, for the first time, again, in our school history, 653 students who took the AP exam. We're getting our kids not only ready for the community college, we're getting them ready for 4-year competitive colleges as well. The last piece is the seal by literacy is recognized statewide. Again, 50 of our kids received the seal by literacy this year. Next slide, please. So let's talk about our seniors. Graduation is around the corner. We're gonna be celebrating with them. Again, this is just a snapshot of some of the schools that our seniors were admitted. New York University, Boston University. Some of these students are from INT, International, some are ALA, but most of them are from Upper School USA. So if you look at the list of 4-year colleges, Emory, UMass Boston, Bentley, Yale, Stanford, Boston University, New York University, we had 8 Posse Scholars. This is just a great example of what we're able to produce at LHS. And these are some of the great things, again, that we need to celebrate, not only as a high school community or as a school community, but as a city. Thank you. Right, we gave you a lot of information. Now we just want to open it up. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything that you're curious about?
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you so much for all that information. It's definitely,
They can't hear you.
can you hear me, guys?
Now we can. There's an echo, but we can.
Yeah, there is an echo. Essentially, this is something that is extremely important to us, the council. Hearing that you guys are working on the safety portion of the different schools, the school in general, but especially the Lawrence High School. We have a bunch of questions, I'm pretty sure. I would like to open the floor to councilors in general to allow them to make, to ask questions in regard to these two items, the public safety. So Councilor Rosario.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, all of you, for a great show. It was a great show. To me, it was. I'm going to open it up by saying this. If we're doing so great, why Superintendent Parrish doesn't feel proud to come up and do that presentation and get the recognition for students or the work that you guys are doing on her own words? That's my opening. Looking at the numbers, the M6, what you call the M6, question that I have, are those the one they actually are report to you guys? Those are the one they actually you record? Those are the one that happen on an everyday basis? Or how do they come to become M6? How do you categorize them, whatever happens in the school, to be M6?
Mr. Rodriguez, can you cover the question for the councilor, please?
Absolutely,
Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay, thank you.
Was, he was asking about M6 violations, M6 code violations, and how do we categorize those, and how do we enter those, et cetera. Is that what the question was, Councilor Del Rosario? Yeah.
Yes.
So M code violations in our code of conduct, M stands for mandatory. When there's any type of physical altercation, fight, a student who tries to physically hurt another student, we categorize those as M6 violations. A fight would be an M6-1 violation. A student trying to attack another student could be an M6-2 violation. So, for example, up until the end of January, Councilor Del Rosario, I was the principal in 10th grade at Lawrence High School. So if in late September, there were two students who began to fight outside at dismissal, I would enter both of their names in our discipline database. I would enter the category of the infraction, and then I would enter the outcome, the disciplinary action, as well as, a brief description of, what I witnessed and what happened. I don't know if that answers what you were looking for. If you need more information on that, I'd be glad to go further for that for you.
I mean, I'll take that, but I mean, my question was how, it seems, to me, it seems outrageous that in 1 month you only record 4 incidents when we know it's more than 4 incidents. Everybody knows there's more than 4 incidents. But that's okay, you recorded that, M6. Now take that answer. Another thing that I have, 35, according to 33 to 3,500 students, correct me if I'm wrong, Lawrence, right, 33 to 3,500 students, right?
Could you just repeat that?
What is the amount of the student at Lawrence High School that you guys have currently, right now?
How many students at Lawrence High School?
3,300 to 3,500. It fluctuates.
Yeah, 33 to 35, that's what the slide says, correct?
About from 3,300 to 3,500 students.
correct?
That includes, yes, that includes students who are enrolled in the lower school, the upper school, students who are enrolled in Abbott Lawrence Academy, and students who are enrolled at the high school learning center on campus. Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, yeah, I forgot, you have a private school inside the public school, too. 7 Lawrence High School safety officer throughout the school, correct?
That's correct.
I'm sorry. 33 to 3,500 students in the school and 7 safety officers. How safe is the school?
Counselor, I can answer the question. I mean, based upon the statistics that we showed, we have a safe space. It's not a perfect space. It is a high school. It is a high school with a lot of students. But when it comes to the current rate that we looked at and that we shared, and again, we're willing to send you the PowerPoint with the data points so you can look at it, and it is public record. It shows that the high school is safe. When it comes to safety officers, David can talk about the current status of the safety officers. As you all know, during the pandemic, it has been extremely hard for us to hire a full staff. But David can talk about his efforts in terms of recruitment and his support when it comes to the officers. David?
So one of the things I'd like to mention is safety is everybody's responsibility, and it's not just the safety officers, we all work together. If a teacher sees something, they'll say something, same as any student or staff, even parents. It's a collaboration. So when we focus on trying to keep the campus safe, from people entering the building that shouldn't be here, then these of culture are the ones working with the students trying to prevent incidents between themselves and others. So it's a collaboration. That's how we manage to keep it safe. We currently have 7 positions open, 6 of them at the high school. We have posted on Indeed. We have posted on the school website. We're looking to partner up with Mass Hire to see if they can help us out. Another avenue we're trying to explore is every year or every other year when the police exam comes out, people take the test, people looking to become police officers. We're looking at that list as well. So see if we can reach out to those applicants that are willing to come in and work with us. Their benefit would be that the time that they put in with us, they get to carry with them once you go to another municipality, another department. So those are the things that we're trying to do to get more people in. But to answer the question as far as safety goes, it's a collaboration.
Okay, 7 safety officers plus the students, plus the teachers and the counselors are taking care of the school safety. How safe it's outside the premises? Like I drove the other day around 10 o'clock in the morning, right? And I saw what it seems to be students smoking, drinking at the basketball court outside. If an adult or anybody commit a crime around that area, they will be charged with committing a crime within the school zone. So who allows these kids to sit there, or who is responsible for the dismissals of these kids while they've been out there all day? You drive all day, and the same kids with the backpacks, smoking, drinking, doing whatever they're doing outside. I remember back in my days when I was in Lawrence High School, Lawrence Street, that to me to go back to a restaurant that was behind, called Capricornio Restaurants, back in those days, I wasn't allowed to go back there. I remember my principal, Dr. Jenkins, used to walk around it, and we wouldn't allow without we have a dismissal paper or somebody that would dismiss us to go outside. How are those kids allowed to be outside in school hours all day long? Who is responsible for that?
To answer your question, I just want to be very clear. I want to be very respectful. When it comes to the basketball court, that actually belongs to the city. That's the domain of the city. So I just want to be clear about that. So in terms of responsibility, it is a shared responsibility. They are our kids. They are your kids. They are all of our kids. In terms of kids who are outside, we actually dedicate staff who step out of the building to support and enhance security as much as we can. But the expectation of the high school team to patrol the city of Lawrence is just very unrealistic. So what we're asking for is true collaboration, open conversation in terms of where the supports are needed. And to your point, I don't want kids to be smoking. I don't want them to be drinking. But when it comes to the domains that belong to the city cannot be held, the schools cannot be held liable for that.
or north to, like, just
Councilor
the other
Rosario,
day.
have the floor. Councilor
sorry?
Rosario, have the floor. Yeah, you can.
This is-
Yes, let's allow Councilor Infante to follow up on Councilor Rosario's question. So, go ahead, Councilor Infante.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for your presentation, but I do want to add on to what my colleague just said. There has been various times when I go to Starbucks during lunchtime between like 11, 12, and 1, and I do see high school age students coming in with book bags, with books, and there's no, I mean, Lawrence High is the only school right across the street from Starbucks. So the security does worry me that I see this every time, and I go to Starbucks very frequently, and there has not been a time where I have not seen high school age students walking into Starbucks. So that worries me, and it worries me how strong security and how easy it is for students to leave the high school campus.
Answer the question as well. So there are two types of students that we have. We have the students that fit a conventional schedule. We also have students who are part of our alternative school. And so there are going to be different times that you walk around campus, and you're going to see students that are in front of the building, that are at Starbucks, that are at Taco Bell. There's some of our students who are on campus and leave the campus. They are those students as well, right? Again, we're just being
by the way,
transparent here.
Can you add a little more in terms of what you're just saying, the conventional schedule students and non-conventional schedule students? Can you explain a little bit more on that?
We have the students that follow the conventional school schedule, meaning that they start at 8 o'clock. They're done by 3 o'clock until they are dismissed. And there are those students who are part of our alternative school, in which they're offered alternative hours in order for them to be able to complete their high school requirement. And so there are different entry points for those students. So I just want to make that clear that those two bodies of students exist, and they are part of Lawrence High School. The other piece.
Can you students that fit into the non-conventional schedule students?
They are close to, in their current roster, there are about 200 students on that roster.
About 200.
Also, I did want to add, Councilor Infante and to Councilor Del Rosario, there are, I think about 75 students who are also in our GLTS partnership, the After Dark program. And those students start school with us around 10:30 or 11 in the morning. And they start later in the day because they spend half their day at Lawrence High School. And then they study over at Greater Lawrence Tech from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So, you know, again, that's not a huge amount of students, but I think there are between 50 and 75 students who start school around 10:30 because they end up going until 5 o'clock over at GLTS.
Well, as you can see, this is a very emotional topic. I going back to Councilor Infante
Thank you,
to
Chair.
follow up on her questions, and then I going back to he have the floor and yell to Councilor Infante. Councilor Infante.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a quick comment regarding the GLTS partnership. I was a school committee member when the pilot program started with LHS. I am very familiar with the program. I am also a previous GLTS employee. I actually ended my employment there in March. So I'm very familiar with the program, and I do know that our school provides buses for those students. And I do know our school transports them back to the vocational school. And I know what time they leave, and I know what time they get there. So I'm not 100% sure how accurate that could be. They could be the After Dark program, then they could not be. But I am very familiar with that program and the logistics of that program, and I don't 100% believe this statement.
Councilor Rosario, you have the floor.
And now that you brought out Greater Lawrence Technical Vocational School, I think you guys should meet up with them and find out how is it that they could do it with one police officer in the whole building and 1,600 students, and there's limited incidents over there. So you guys should do a partnership with them and find out how is it they can make it work. And it lacks scandals, kids are not outside, and there's only one police officer inside the whole building. And going back to the kids outside, why don't we, who decided to take the uniform away from the kids? Why they're not uniform, so we can find out those times, like you said, they have different schedules and stuff. So why don't we go back to the uniforms so we can ID them outside and maybe protect them? Again, the presentation was a great movie that you guys brought up. Numbers are great. I'm very happy for the work that you guys are doing. But we got to be more realistic. The problem is out there, and none of you want to accept that there's a bigger problem than the solution that you are, showing us. So it's a time that we say, as a community, and say, you know what? We failing. Let's get all together and make it happen. Let's bring ideas together. It's great. Let's sit down and talk. 10 therapists or 10 counselors, again, for 3,500 kids, divided by how many? By counselors, specialists, whatever you want to call it. Seven security safety officers in a building with 3,500 students. How many per kids? How safe is the building? Plus, you got 200 to 300 kids every day outside walking around with nobody from the premises, and the principal just said it's a Lawrence Public Park, so we all should. So Lawrence Police should go over there, or we should take the police from anywhere, or the community should go to the basketball court and send the kids inside the school. So we should be doing your job, and said you're doing your job. And again, I appreciate all the hard work that you guys put in. Honestly speaking, from the bottom of my heart. But somebody have to honestly man up and say, you know what, we're failing, and this is what we need to do, and let's get it all together. Again, 7 safety officers for 3,500 students. That's not safe. 10 therapists for 3,500 students, it might work for 3 or 2. And again, the numbers that you brought up, 3 incidents in 1 month, 4 incidents in 1 month, 3 incidents in 1 month, and that's 56% dropout. Are we calling the dropout also the people that go away? I had a couple of neighbors that took the kids from the Lawrence High School to put it into private school. Those are part of the dropouts, and that's why we're so proud that it's only 50-something%. I don't know. I don't even know. I'm gonna just end it this way. We need to do better. As a community, as teachers, as therapists, as policemen, as whatever, we need to communicate with the community. We do engagement and do a little better. You guys need help, and we're willing to help you. Thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you for showing up. Thank you.
Numbers.
Great. Prior to moving forward, I would like to address the comments again by the counselor. What we're looking for is a partnership, right? What we're looking for is for the community to come together to continue to grow and support. I do agree, right? There's always room for improvement. We're not saying that the Lawrence High School is perfect, but what we're saying is that the progress is notable, right? And that we should celebrate that too. Right? Because at the same time, when it comes to the narrative, it is our responsibility to highlight those things that are going well in this community and the work that is being done in order for us to push the agenda forward. So this meeting is not about hiding facts, because the facts have been provided, the data is there. It's a matter of how can we have open conversations with regard of that continued growth, and how can we celebrate together in order for us to move forward. That's just my
Great. Thank you. This is great to hear that. I know Juan, Victor, David, Timothy, Quill, you guys means right. I don't know if the superintendent does the same thing, because we are looking to actually have partnerships. We are calling her here to have a conversation about the safety, because we all know that having an opportunity with the community, talking to the counselors, talking to the different elected officials, will make a difference, because we are up there in the streets, we are up there in our community, looking forward to hope. So make sure that she knows that we are looking for a partnership. We're looking to do so. Now I'm going to open the floor to Councilor Reyes. She is here waiting patiently, and now you have the floor. Thank you so much, Councilor Reyes.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Let me lower my hand. Thank you for the presentation, was amazing. But I have a concern when you presenting, we have 7 vacancy, and I want to know how many safety officers you allocate in our Loring High School.
Can you hear me, guys? No?
Yes.
Okay, so, thank you, Ms. Reyes, for bringing this up. We have 7 openings for that Lawrence High School. That's what we're trying to recruit at this time. I mentioned earlier that we have posted in the school website. Indeed, we're trying to reach out to Mass Hire and the civil service list for potential police officers as well. So we are really trying to reach out to as many people as possible to see what kind of results we get this year to get them ready for the start of next year. So the goal would be to have 13 safety officers at the campus.
Thank you. But I think we don't have a lot of candidates for this position, because when I talking for different meetings we have in our community, they mention the salary is so low.
That's correct. So we just negotiated a new contract. We were able to bring up the salary a little bit. If they have, experience, education, we're able to work with them a little bit more. Unfortunately, it is a union position, so I do have to follow the contract and their pay. There is opportunity to make more money if they work overtime. A lot of our guys do a lot of overtime with after-school programs and stuff like that in sports that happens in our district. So the potential to make a little bit of money is there. I wish I could say, hey, I want to pay you guys more, but I have to follow the contract.
Thank you. The salary is something we can discuss in public, or is something you discuss through the contract?
Well, it's in the contract. Usually the contract is posted on the school website. So if anybody looking for it, they can go in and look at it. I'm not sure if it's updated yet, but I know they're working on the process of it. Starting July 1st, step 1, which will be the bottom of the step ladder. You're looking at $18.03 an hour starting July 1st. So anybody that comes in after July 1st is entitled to that and upwards from there.
Can you repeat the salary, because I don't catch very well?
Oh, starting salary as of July 1st, 2022, it'll be step 1, which is the bottom step, will be $18.03 an hour.
Oh, okay, very low. And you can send the job description to email to us?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Through you, Chair.
Sure. Open. Thank you, councilors, for the questions. We have Councilor Payano, which is part of the public, that he would like to extend some questions to you, the school, the representation that is here in front of us today. So, Councilor Payano, welcome, and thank you so much for asking more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make my comments brief. First, I want to thank all of you from the school department that are here through Zoom giving their presentation. I will say, so I think one of the things that's important throughout the conversation that was being had around the students that are outside the schools, I think it's important to note that while there are different types of students It is a fact that there are students that should be in school that are not, and that they're congregating in not just Starbucks and Wendy's, and all across those stores in 114. And while I completely understand that the regular role of educators is within the classroom, it's within the school, I think that for many years we've understood that in Lawrence it has to be different. Education just doesn't stop within the schools. We have to do whatever we need to do to connect with our students. So if that means that a student is not coming home, that we have to send someone to knock on their door, I hope that our school department is doing that. Just in the same sense, if we know that for a fact there are students that are at any point during the day at Wendy's, there has to be some type of we need educators to be there there has to be some ramifications and some conversations with those students and their parents about what they're doing, because at the end of the day, that's essentially the safety of our kids, and our kids are not receiving that education. It'd be one thing if we didn't know about it, but I think that anyone that just drives around in Lawrence and drives around at any point in 114 knows that that's going on. So I know that the folks within the school department and within Lawrence High School know that it's going on as well. I don't just get calls from folks within Lawrence High School and parents as well, and students saying that there are kids that are taking off school and going into those locations. I also get calls from constituents saying that they almost saw an accident occur in that area. So I think it's important to note that, and I say this not to put anyone to blame, just in that I want to make sure that we're thinking about strategies on how to move forward. We're going to be having pretty soon budget conversations, and one of the budget conversations we're going to be having is around Lawrence Public Schools. So I hope, just know that that's one of the questions that I will be asking, sort of where in this budget is there an answer or some type of response to this issue? Because I think, what I'd be guessing is that the reason why there isn't a lot of staff capacity, well, what I'm hoping that the issue is staff capacity, not that, this idea that, potentially we want police officers to start walking around Wendy's and Starbucks and talking to the kids, because I don't think that's the situation that we want. We don't necessarily want police officers arresting kids for truancy or potentially getting into a conversation that escalates into something more. I think what we want is educators there convincing students to go back into the classrooms. So that being said, I hope that when we get into these budget conversations, that Lawrence Public Schools has an answer, and we can see how the money that's going to be used is going to be used to ensure there's capacity to do that. Moving on to sort of my last point, because I know we have a budget committee that was supposed to start at 7, but I understand that this is extremely important subject, and it's a subject that counselors have been waiting for months. The other piece, Mr. Hernandez, if you can, so I know that you were mentioning that 7 safety officers. Are you saying that there's currently 7 safety officers, or that there's 7 positions for safety officers?
Both.
7 secure or 7 open?
We
Okay.
have 7 safety officers, and we're looking to hire 7 more, to a total of 14 for the upper school. For the Lawrence High School. One of them is going to be off campus.
Okay. And I think my what I hope that you guys are able to take back is that there might be ways to think creatively on how to offer a little more benefits to those individuals, because I think it is difficult if we're recruiting people and they spend a year or 2, and then there are communities right next door that are paying more. I think that there's a likelihood that we'll miss them. And I completely understand that we are stuck with sort of like union contracts, but I'm pretty sure that if you go to any union, hey, we want to increase benefits, no one's going to say no to that. At least I think, perhaps not. So I hope that's something that is sort of taken into account. Last question is around teachers. So one of the big issues that we were having, at least towards the end of last year, is that we were losing teachers. I'm wondering, Headmaster Carballo, if you can speak to teacher retention and the plans that are being put in place to ensure that come September, we have enough teachers to be able to educate our students. I believe that when we started in September, we did not have that. I know in part one of the reasons was COVID, but it was also, I remember getting a call during September from teachers asking me if I could help recruit for different teacher positions, and my first thought was school just started. So I hope that there's some strategy around that, because I think if you don't have sufficient teachers to educate and you don't have sufficient teachers to sufficient security to patrol the schools, it means that you administrators have to take on some of that work, and teachers have to take on some of that work, and there's less educating that goes on. So that was my last question. If Headmaster Carballo can just talk to us about sort of plans on ensuring, just not just teacher retention, but that we're going to have the right number of teachers at the high school come August.
Another question. Yes, I just had a hard time hearing. I just want to clarify what the question was. So when it comes to, is the question, what is the strategy in order for us to retain our teachers here in Lawrence?
And how many, and the amount of the teachers?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So, strategy for retention and, essentially, if you can just give us sort of an honest perspective of where we're at. I will say that, what I hear is anecdotally that we've lost a lot of teachers. So that worries me that throughout this COVID experience, there's a lot of educators that are out there that might be thinking, come June, I'm going somewhere else. So I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on retention and the work that's currently being done to ensure that come August, you guys have the not just adequate, but that you're filling the positions for teachers there and other educators.
Thank you for the question. So when it comes to teacher retention, the first thing that I want to say is, this is not a Lawrence High School issue. This is a statewide issue. This is a national issue when it comes to teacher shortage. So I just wanted us to note that. When it comes to strategies, one of the things that we're making sure too is that we're building very supportive teams when it comes to our teachers to ensure that, when it comes to professional development and just when it comes to coaching that is there, that is a key element when it comes to that profession in terms of maintaining teachers in a space in which they feel supported, that they feel part of a bigger community, and that there's a clear vision and plan for the school. And so that's going to be one of the key elements. The other piece is teacher leadership. We have really enhanced a series and created a series of opportunities for leaders to engage in leadership roles. And so we have really created a model in which we're really talking about shared decision-making. There are a lot of teachers who are running a series of departments, PDs, and again, that's just a way that we're able to recognize the fact that our teachers bring a lot to the table and that we value them. So, those are two of the things that, we're thinking about. Again, when it comes to our teachers, we have a campus LTU, which is comprised of teacher leaders, particularly members of the LTU, of the Teachers Union. And we meet often in order for us to talk about issues that they're concerned about and ways that we can just improve the way that we do things at LHS. Again, my stand is, we're not perfect. There's a lot of work to be done, but the work is being done, and we have created a space in which our teachers have a platform to advocate for themselves, to support the school community, and to give ideas in terms of how we can improve their well-being while they're in school.
I think to add on to that as well, Councilor Payano, since 2009, our turnover rate in the district has usually been between 9 and 11% of our teachers moving on. So, this year we're expecting and planning for a similar rate of staff turnover, perhaps 10%. The district did send out a declaration of intent survey to teaching staff sometime back to gauge their plans for the 22-23 school year. And in that survey of folks who completed it, 6% indicated that they were not going to be returning next year, and about 4% indicated, that they had they're not sure yet. But again, there is turnover every year, and we are planning for similar rates of turnover that we've had historically over the past 10, 11 years. To make sure that we have all our teaching positions filled by the beginning of the school year.
Thank you for that. So, not a question, just a quick statement. I think it's important to understand while retention issue is an issue all across the country, all across the state, what we've been hearing from teachers since September is that they are working in a toxic environment. Now, what I'm hearing from Headmaster Caraballo is that there's work being done on that, which we'll make sure to look into. So that's great to hear. But I think it's important that we're honest, and even if we disagree that that we ourselves can't see the toxic environment, if multiple employees are claiming it, we need to understand that there has to be some truth to it. And I'm hoping that these conversations are transparent conversations that are being had, and that you guys are addressing that. And please keep us updated as to sort of retention rates and what you expect to see next year. We ourselves within the council want to make sure that we're using that when we're approving your budget and the overall budget, that money is being used correctly. So, for example, seeing something like there's 14 positions and half of them are not filled, that is very disappointing. But thank you very much for answering my questions, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Payano, for your comment and questions. Now I have a few questions that I would like to ask. A lot of them has been responded already, but I would like to ask just a few. What is the difference between what happened in October and what is happening today in terms of the implementation? I know you mentioned some of the things that are happening at the Lawrence High School, but in general, what is the different methodology that you guys are using to be able to accomplish reducing those numbers in terms of fighting, and perhaps in terms of the safety of the school, if the school is a lot more safe today?
Councilor Rodriguez, I think some of the issues that we faced in September and October, had relations to the students being out of school for 18 months, not being in classes together. They missed out on some social emotional development, some peer building skills that they would have done over their second half of 7th grade and all of their 8th grade year. So I believe that a lot of it had to do with that. Also, again, as Quinn highlighted in his slide, there's been a tremendous amount of resources and team building dedicated specifically to address this issue, so that all students can feel safe in school. All students know that they're coming to a safe place to study. And I think, again, a lot of it has to do with the focus on being restorative, trying to get to root causes of why some students may be angry with each other. There was a situation that I dealt with in the fall that had grown from two students playing touch football, and one of them scoring a touchdown on the other.
No, but that was not.
So I mean, I think, but they just didn't have the social skills to be able to deal with, one kid scoring a touchdown on the other, and it grew into a bigger problem. And I think that what Mr. Gunnell has worked on with his team, getting down to root causes of why kids are upset at each other, and then working on that. Quinn, I'll turn it over to you just to talk about, how you do mediations and restorative practice, et cetera.
Yeah, just really quickly, I can answer. The easy answer is relationships. Relationships are huge. And what we're doing at Lawrence High School is we're building a community, especially like Juan mentioned, after being out of school for so long, it was really necessary to focus on building trust. So we have, just yesterday, we were able to prevent a fight from happening because a student reported to one of the deans that something was going on. And so we're seeing this more and more. As the more that we do this relationship building work, students are self-reporting. Students are seeking us out and saying, hey, I saw somebody posting something on social media last night, or I heard those two kids arguing down the hallway. And then because we have such an involved team, we can respond very quickly and start, pulling kids for meetings to do that pre-conference work and trying to, it's a big negotiation sometimes, but the mediations work, the pre-conferencing, it's very proactive. And I would say I think that's a big part of it. The only other thing I would add is that everybody is working their butts off across the board. I sometimes feel a little guilty because I feel like the restorative team and the culture team gets a lot of credit, but the deans, the administrators, they're working extremely hard, meeting with parents. That's a big one, just involving parents. There's parents in here. It's almost a revolving door all day with all the parent meetings that we're having. And so, yeah, I think having more people to share the workload of doing that heavy, proactive work. It's very involved work. We're dealing with human emotion. And if you don't have enough people to do that work, then it falls by the wayside. But thankfully, we've built up a strong team.
And I also think that the difference has been around hiring people that understand the culture and the community. When you were part of the conversation at the library and you were not working at the high school yet, even though you were working for years there, but you took a pause and then went back and worked towards those issues. Thank you so much for doing that. Another question that I have, it's in regard to the same question, just a follow-up. But now this is going to be about the safety implementation and what different methods are we implementing in terms of to prevent those type of issues from happening again.
Go back to Quinn's statement. Really, we're really focusing on that proactive work, really strengthening those relationships. Our kids know us and we know them, and that makes the difference. We know our families, we know our parents, we look like them, that makes a difference. And so that deep connection, that understanding of, I know where you came from, I know your family, I know your situation, that is what's making the difference at Lawrence High School. And so, when it comes to the team, again, we're having very honest conversations with our families. We are lifting the standard. Again, we're not just saying, hey, we just want you to come in, right, and read a book and pretend that you're going to learn something. We're pushing kids. We're really asking for more of our kids, and we're asking more from our families, and our families are supporting us. Our parents are supporting us, and that's beautiful to see. And, for many of our kids, they never had a Dominican principal, right? For many of our kids, they never had a team that looked like them, and that makes a difference. And I'll tell you what, the people that don't look like them, who are part of the admin team, they're more Dominican than I am. And so the idea is that, again, the people who are doing this work are truly invested, and I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of the fact that they see the kids for who they are and their potential, and we're seeing the difference.
All right, in terms of the method that you guys are using, did you guys change that methodology in terms of safety itself?
I think, we have our structures and procedures here that I think are pretty consistent. Councilor Rodriguez, I think,
Can
again.
you speak louder?
I'm sorry. Our routines and structures, tend to be consistent. we try to have good supervision areas, people assigned to supervise different areas, people assigned to do different roles. I really do feel that our struggles in September and October were like Head of School Caraballo mentioned. We had 2 grade levels of students entering the school, most of which who had never been on campus before. So it wasn't like we were just welcoming one new group of 9th graders that we didn't know. Most of the 10th graders did not attend school last year either. A very limited number of them came for on-site learning in the spring. So I do believe that was, a significant part of our struggle this year. And then also, as Mr. Ganell said, the investment of resources into a school culture team and dedicating staff to spend majority, if not all of their time on those communications and conferencing and meeting and then post-conferencing and then checking in with those students again over the next week to make sure that issues, although we feel they may have been resolved, don't flare up again.
All right, my next question. My next question is for Master Carvalho, and I don't want the answer right now. I would like you to think about that answer while we're having this conversation. And this is about the budget. How much money or resource, but put in money perspective, we have invested in terms of safety, getting the school to where we are today compared to previous year? You don't have to give me an answer now. Just think it through while we're having this conversation, and then down the road, you might answer those. So my next question will be in regard to in regard to the students getting into a fight. What are the resources that we have for those students that are victims? And what are, essentially, we just talk about, the repercussion of somebody getting into a fight, but what are the resources of those students that get into a fight without wanting to get into this situation and they become a victim? So we mentioned a few already, but what specifics are there? It's there for those students and family in regard to that situation.
I think all of our students have access again to the social workers who work in the buildings, as well as the school culture folks and the deans of students who assist them, after any type of incidents. As you referred to here, Councilor Rodriguez, maybe a student who was maybe pushed into a fight, or, there was gossip that started a fight. The student did not want to fight at all. I think, we do have our guidance counselors and our social workers develop safety plans for students who are worried after some physical altercation or some type of infraction, where we can list who is your preferred staff member. I have the best relationship with this teacher. Okay, if you're concerned, you go to your math teacher right away. Second on the safety plan, if you have any concerns at home, you tell your family, your mom, your dad, or your abuelita, and they'll contact the assistant principal right away by email or by text message to say, my daughter or my grandson is worried about somebody bothering him tomorrow, etc. So, we do have a variety of ways that we support students after any type of incident. It includes, mediation with Quinn's folks and follow-ups, but then also safety plans and check-ins with their guidance counselors, their social workers, or it could be one of their teachers as well.
And what happened with the parents, if the parents get involved? Perhaps I have a family that they called me up, they told me what happened at the school. It was not at the high school, it was in another school. And they actually pressed criminal charges against the student. And they were scared of sending the student back to what is supposed to be the safer environment in the city, which is the school. And she was not. The school provided her a lot of answer to her questions, but still she went over to the police department and get the police involved so far. But I mean, it was a little challenging for her to pursue the case to protect her child at the court level, because a lot of privacy and perhaps a lot of things that were public were not provided to her because of just being scared of repercussion to the school.
Those meetings around, part of my job now, Councilor Rodriguez, is to work with schools in the district on issues like this, right? Something happens in the neighborhood to a student at 5 o'clock or something. They get pushed or they get punched or they get something thrown at them. And usually because it's in the neighborhood, the offender could be someone who attends school with them. So, we also have done a lot of meetings and a lot of safety plans in instances just like you're referring to. Okay, my son had an issue where he was going to play basketball and someone came up and started a fight with him, and the student goes to the same school. We've done a lot of meetings where we meet with the school principal, the student's family, the student, to develop a safety plan for them to make sure that they're comfortable attending school after something happens in the neighborhood that is outside of school but does involve another member of the school.
All right, now we're going to open the floor. We're going to open the floor to Councilor Infante for her last question, and I have one last statement, and then we're going to finish this part of the meeting, let's call it that way, so we can continue the conversation eventually.
Thank you, Chair. It's actually a comment than a question, but I do want to applaud the school for your social emotional learning efforts and your behavioral health efforts. I oftentimes, these facts around behavioral health and the COVID effects are often looked over, or they're perceived as minimal. But now, in my new role, I'm learning more and more that this is factual, and it's a situation that we are dealing with. In fact, in the upcoming years, our federal government is investing over $1 billion just for behavioral health initiatives and increasing school-based programs for behavioral health. So I do want to applaud you for that, and I do want to comment that my colleague mentioned, well, why don't you partner with GLTS? But that's one thing that I can say that GLTS does well, is the social emotional partnering within employees and students and et cetera. And it sounds like you guys have made the steps to really focus on that, and I do want to applaud you for that.
All right, thank you so much, guys. I have one. I would like to hear from Master Carvalho about the question, and then we're gonna just close up for the day.
The best answer that I
one
can,
more item, very quick.
sure, the best answer that I can give you when it comes to the investment is that, what we're asking for is something that you can really quantify, which is relationship. So when it comes to the actual budget, I can spend $1 million, I can spend 2, I can get 3, I can get 100 people in the building. Unless they're able to truly connect and build that relationship, in order for us to get the work done, then the quantity doesn't really matter. So it's truly hard to quantify what is the proper amount of investment in order for us to be able to resolve any issues. What I know and what we have shown tonight is that, the current structure that we have now and the investment that we have put in has given us the results. We're looking at less than 0.5% of incidents. And again, that is verifiable data that I am willing and able to share with you all.
No, and I'm glad that you gave me that answer, because that's exactly what we're looking for. I guess that the method and the methodology that we used before didn't work, and what we're using today is working better. It's a system that it could be, it have to be improved, and part of that will be if we continue or if we start working in collaboration. Councilors, we have 2 items that we discussed today. We have one more item very quick for an invitation. Can I get a motion to table item 12921 as well as 35619?
So moved.
Second.
All right, there is a motion on the table. I'll call the questions. Councilor Infante?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilor Rosario? And I vote yes. The last item that we have in front of us today is item 12622. And this is in regard to the quarterly site visit to the Lawrence Public School to observe safety issues or concerns. So we all talk about what we would like to see. You guys brought up a presentation. Great. This item is to actually get a visit on a quarterly basis until we actually understand that everything that we have said is in place and everybody's happy, and develop those partnerships that we are talking about. So councilors, I would like to send correspondence to the superintendent, and obviously the best people to bring that message are here in front of us today, but I would like to make that official. So I get a motion to send correspondence to Cynthia Paris, the superintendent, to actually invite us all, councilors, different dates and time, and a quarterly site visit to the Lawrence Public Schools.
So move.
Second.
All right, I have a motion on the table, properly second. I would like to call the roll call. Councilor Infante,
Yes.
Councilor De Rosario,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Please relay that information to Superintendent Paris. We're looking forward to have those visits in place. And obviously, this is not the greatest thing to do, doing it, putting it as an item on the agenda, but this is the only way we have, and that's wrong. But let's keep it that way if we have to. Thank you so much, guys. Can I get a motion to table 12622?
So moved.
Thank you.
All right, I call the question. Councilor Infante?
Yes.
Councilor De Rosario?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you so much, guys, for coming here. I hope that next time you guys are joined by the Superintendent Paris, and we can continue the conversation. All right, thank you so much, and I got a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I call the questions. Councilor Infante?
Yes.
Councilor De Rosario?
Yes.
Councilor, and I vote yes. Thank you so much.